How about that Jesper, though? The Minnesota Wild shut out the Chicago Blackhawks in a great rebound effort for Jesper Wallstedt. 2 goals for Kirill Kaprizov, get him to 41 on the season. Marco Rossi scores. A lot of the youth shoutouts in tonight's win. Let's break down all of the particulars on tonight's Locked On Wild postcast. Fire it up.
You are Locked On Wild Postcast, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The Minnesota Wild pick up a 4-0 win over the Chicago Blackhawks here tonight, and we are going to dive right in. Honestly, I like this way better, the Swedish meat wall. Let's talk Jesper, because all eyes were on Jesper Wallstedt here tonight. My eyes were on Jesper Wallstedt. The audience's eyes were on Jesper Wallstedt. And he was much better in this game today. And he even talked about it after the game, which, by the way, I encourage you to go listen to the interview that Kevin Gorg did with Jesper after the game. Very candid, a little emotional, but very candid, and I'm not downplaying the emotion. That was great to see. Very candid in the areas in which he needed to improve coming into this one. And he did a great job. Talked about needing to be in a better position himself to face the shots that were coming at him. And he was. The team also did a much better job of making sure that the traffic in front of him didn't get to be too great at any given point. And so even against a team like Chicago, for a young goalie trying to get his feet wet at the NHL level, there is no team that is a guaranteed win. And so the fact that Jesper was able to show out in this one it was great. And a shutout on top of it. I've got some historical significance that we'll talk about with Jesper's shutout. But of the shot attempts in this game, Chicago had 34 unblocked shot attempts in this game. Listen to this. They had 1 shot attempt that would qualify as a medium danger, and 3 of the 34 that was a high danger. And so of those 34 shot attempts in the entirety of the game, Chicago only had 4 that were medium or high danger. That is how you defensively win a hockey game. Like, I don't care if it's the Blackhawks. I don't care if it's Dallas. That is how you win a hockey game defensively, is by limiting the number of high danger and medium danger chances. The Wild also blocked 15 shot attempts in this game tonight. And so John Hines talked about the effort needing to be considerably better for key pieces after the Winnipeg game. And the effort was much better in this one tonight. And so I thought that was great right off the bat. And I just want to get to some of the other historical numbers to throw at you here for this one tonight. Let's get to Minnesota Wild PR. Where is it? Making 24 saves in today's 4-0 win over Chicago, Jesper Wallstedt becomes the 5th rookie goaltender in Minnesota Wild history to post a shutout, joining Josh Harding, who did it 3 times, Darcy Kemper twice, Kaapo Kähkönen twice, and Anton Khudobin, who also did it 1 time. So Jesper joining a who's who of goalies to record shutout wins in their rookie season. Now, obviously, Wallstedt will have a chance to add to that ledger because he's only going to get into a few games at the end of this season. So next year will be his technical rookie season. But just great to see him bounce back and just be so cerebral about the things that he could work on after that start against Dallas. Because let's be honest, that Dallas start was all around. Every level of the team's performance was a disaster. And Wallstedt looked like a guy who was maybe wasn't quite ready for the speed at which a lot of these shots at the NHL level come through, but he worked on it. He worked on it down in Iowa and looked much better here in this one today. Other things that we saw today. Kirill Kaprizov with 2 goals. He now has 41 on the season. Get this. The Minnesota Wild have scored 90 goals in their past 30 games. Out of those 90, Kirill Kaprizov has scored 23 of them. He has assisted on 24 of them, and he has been on the ice for 59 of them. It is, every time I dive into these Kaprizov numbers, it just boggles my mind even more. But it just further underscores what we have been talking about for a long time. And this extends to Joel Eriksson Ek and Matt Boldy as well. They have been on the ice for now, I think if my math is correct, it's the 3 of those players have been on the ice for 56 of the 117 goals scored since January 13th. So it's been those top 3 or bust. Freddy Gaudreau with the goal tonight. Total surprise, but credit to Freddy for getting to the net and tipping one in to add to the scoring. That is Freddy's first goal since he had one recently, if I do recall correctly. Let me just, and as Dougie notes here, Jesper is the youngest of those 5 to earn a shutout in his rookie season. First goal for Freddy Gaudreau since it has been a while. First goal for Freddy Gaudreau since March 3rd against San Jose. Thank you, Brant. Brant was right where I was going with that. First goal for Freddy Gaudreau since March 3rd. And if you want to take it even a step further, it's his first point since March 19th against Anaheim. Part of the issue. Secondary scoring with this team has been just very Hyde. Not Hyde, Hide throughout a majority of the season. So Kaprizov scores 2 goals here today. Marco Rossi knots his 21st goal of the season and just continues to put together a real solid rookie season. Marat Huznadinov, 14 minutes, 58 seconds of ice time today. He had an assist. He had 1 shot attempt, 2 blocks, and 2 hits. It was 2 of 5 in the faceoff circle. And Brock Faber had that just disgusting setup for the Kirill Kaprizov goal at the to cap off the scoring, as he just left it right on a tee for Kaprizov, who buried it. Faber gets another assist. He has, I think, 36 assists on the season. So Faber just continuing to be about a half point per game defenseman, which is just, that's quite the number. He's got 43 points right now, 7 goals, 36 assists in 77 games. Unless something crazy happens the rest of the way, he's going to play in all 82 and just continues to be continues to be just a huge part of the youth movement for this Minnesota Wild team. Connor Bedard, 18 minutes, 24 seconds. He had one shot on goal, one shot that missed the net. He had 2 hits and a giveaway. He was also 2 of 3 in the faceoff circle. Didn't play on the power play because the Wild did not get called for a penalty in this one. And he also did not play in the penalty kill. So there's your Calder Trophy comparison. Although, as I noted in the live stream today, is that one of the Hughes brothers has crept up into the Calder Trophy race to take a second place spot in points in the Calder Trophy race. Jack Hughes, I think it is. It's one of the Hughes brothers. There are a bunch of them. He's hopped up into second place in terms of points, but is still like a minus 28 on the season. Brock Faber is not a minus. Connor Bedard. Oh, what was Connor Bedard? He was even. He was even today, which is, I guess, a positive for him. Brock was a +1. So now he's +2 on the season. And yeah, you tell me. You tell me who should thank you. Luke Hughes. There's Jack, there's Quinn, there's Luke. There are too many Hugheses. Too many Hugheses. Bedard has 18 seconds of penalty kill time the entire season. All gas, no brakes. All power, all offense, no defense. And he's a minus 38 on the season. So you tell me. You tell me who deserves it. I know who I'd pick. But again, the big story is Jesper getting the shutout here today and getting himself in position to face shots, which was something that was a bit of a struggle for him against Dallas, and just looking comfortable in net. That's the big takeaway from today's game, is that he looked like an NHL goalie. And as we continue to build this thing going forward, he's going to be a big piece of the puzzle here as the season unfolds. So that's the takeaway here. 2 goals for Kirill is great. A goal for Rossi is great. But Jesper is he's the big takeaway from this. So that's kind of my 2 cents on what we saw here today. We'll get to your comments and questions on today's game as we continue today's Locked On Wild postcast. After this, the Minnesota Wild again picking up a 4-0 win over the Chicago Blackhawks. We will take your comments and your questions after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild, tonight's postcast, in fact, is brought to you by Sleeper. We are down to the final few games of the season, and whether your team is in the playoff picture or is just playing for the future, you can still win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our #1 choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether your favorite Minnesota Wild players like Kirill Kaprizov, Joel Eriksson Ek, Matt Boldy, or Marco Rossi will record more or less than their Sleeper projections in categories such as goals, assists. You can even go goalies too and go Jesper Wallstedt to hit his over in saves, plus, minus, and more. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Tonight's Locked On Wild postcast also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to tonight's Locked On Wild postcast. Minnesota Wilds pick up the 4-0 win over the Chicago Blackhawks here today. And again, the big story in this one, Jesper Wallstedt, who stopped all 24 shots that he faced. Minnesota Wild defensively held Chicago to 4 shots of medium or high danger. That's it. Of the 34 shot attempts they took, 30 of them were low danger. So that's a nice way to help a goalie out who is starting to make his way at the NHL level. And so credit to the Minnesota Wild defensively for holding Chicago at bay pretty much all season. If Bedard is so good, why didn't he score on a rookie goalie in his second game? Well, many people have been saying this. Many people have been asking this question. Faber is on track for the most block shots on the most minutes of any rookie skater of the last 30 years. Bedard is on pace for the worst plus-minus of any rookie skater in that same span. Big yikes. Sean, I did see that stat, and I will just rehash it here because it is definitely worth repeating. The Minnesota Wild have scored 90 goals in their past 30 games. Out of those 90 goals, Kirill Kaprizov has scored 23 of them. He's assisted on 24 of them. And he's been on the ice in general for 59 of the 90. Like, he is just a goal magnet for this Minnesota Wild team. Imagine if there was any level of help outside of Matt Boldy and Joel Eriksson. Imagine if there was any level of help. Be in a great spot. Be in a very good spot. Denny's got some trivia for us. I'm going to put the question up here in just a second. Who for the North Stars had the first shutouts as a kid? The answer, Donnie Beaupre at 18. I don't even remember what I was doing at 18. Certainly was not lacing it up and strapping on the pads to go between the pipes. Certainly was not doing that. But that is an unbelievable statistic by the captain, who he just brings the heat every time in and out. That's what you get. That's what you get with Denny as the captain. He brings the heat every single time he hops in. Michael, so are we out of salary cap hell now, or do we have another year to go? There's another year of this. There's another year of the fun. And then we're talking about Parise and Suter's cap hits being less than Freddy Gaudreau combined. But there's one more year of this. One more year of this, and then we're free. If only we had a second scoring line. They've got a piece of one. They just it just underscores how important that second line wing spot is. If they could just get somebody to take that spot. Like what were the numbers today for Marcus Johansson? Must have taken it to heart, because I'm being told, there we go, 2 shots on goal in 17 minutes 21 seconds. Matt Boldy had 4 shots. Joel Eriksson had 5. Kirill had 4. So there is 13 of your 37 right there. Brock Faber had another 3. Matt Zuccarello had 3. Like, there's another 6. Like, the guys that should be shooting are, but then nobody else after that. Like, and look, there were a lot of points in this one. Like, Boldy had an assist. Eriksson Ek had an assist. Gaudreau had a goal. Kaprizov had 2 goals. Rossi had a goal. Zuccarello had an assist. Kuznetsov had an assist. Bogosian and Faber had an assist. I didn't even realize today that the Wild went 11-7 because they weren't sure if Bogosian was going to be 100% ready to rock, and so wanted to just make sure that that they had another defenseman ready in the event that Bogosian wasn't ready to go. And so then they said, let's just give Mermis a shot out there. So some real interesting things with the lineup once again. But even Mermis played 10 minutes. He had 2 shots on goal and was a +1. John Merrill played 5 minutes. 5 minutes of ice time for Johnny Vibes. 6 shifts. Six shifts of Johnny Merrill hockey tonight. That's something else. Seven shifts too many. 7 shifts too many is something that I think we have been saying pretty much all season. It's just way too much. But hopefully you either get better players in front to where you're putting him in a 7th defenseman role, or you just simply remove him from the equation. Remove him from the roster, and then you don't have to worry about it ever again. I'm fine with either, but like, you just gotta do something. Like, it's funny for a team that has very limited finances this upcoming season, that it feels like they're going to make just some massive changes. But honestly, like, there's a lot that needs doing. Cool too, though, for Jesper that his family was in town to watch him play. Honestly, what a cool moment. Like, gets his first shutout, gives that sweet interview at the end of the game, talks about like he needed to be better at his positioning. He was. Like, he put himself in position to get this one today by working hard and by not like getting comfortable. Like, he put in work, and that Iowa team in front of him down in Iowa is not like they're they're going through it down there. But he continued to battle, and like he just continued to put the time in, which is why I think we do need to continue to be excited for what looks to be a budding career for Jesper as he continues to get himself going. Like that's a little taste that we got today of what he can bring to the table when he gets up here in a full length capacity. And whether it be, if it's next year, if Fleury hangs it up and Jesper's up here next year, then him and Gus will be battling for starts. If Fleury comes back for a year, then that's a conversation that Bill Guerin's going to have with his goalies to get that figured out. But as of right now, like, I think the thing that is important too is that there's no reason that this should be like the only start that Jesper gets. And look, if you throw him in against San Jose, sure, that's fine. I don't really care the opponent at this point. If you're going to go against a couple of the easier teams to boost his confidence and to allow him to not have to like get thrown directly into the fire right off the bat, fine. That's fine by me. But I think you got to give him at least one more this season, just to further kind of validate where he's at in his process. Now, with the win, let's reset this so I can just see. So actually, the Minnesota Wild's stick at 13 in the latest Tankathon draft standings. They are still at 13 with 83 points. Tied with Philadelphia, who has played one more game, and the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are not getting their first round pick because that's going to San Jose. So San Jose's got 2 first rounders. They are in the number 1 spot, have been forever. They have only 44 points on the season. They're 18, 50, and 8. Chicago's next with 51, then Anaheim with 54, and Columbus with 64 is your top 4. The most likely thing would be, because the Wild have to play Colorado, they play Vegas. They've got some tough games down the stretch, and they are playing teams. They're playing teams that still have a lot to play for. So you have to finish off the season Colorado, Vegas, San Jose, Los Angeles, Seattle. So you're losing 3 of those games. So at most, you will probably pick up 3 or 4 points. So you're going to finish the year at 86 or 87, which is going to put you right on the fringe. Like, you just really would be nice to just kind of put the car in park for the rest of the season. And as Sean notes, other than St. Louis, at least all the other teams around the Wild in the draft order are still in the playoff hunt. Your Washington, Philadelphia, those 2 teams, Pittsburgh as well. So they're still going to be duking it out too. What do the standings look like right now in the East? As of right now, Pittsburgh is 1 point behind Detroit, as is Philadelphia. Washington is 2 points back. So yeah, that's going to be a dogfight down to the end of the season. So it's likely that those teams are going to rack up a few more wins. Me likey the sound of that. Tampa Bay has already clinched their wild card spot because they've got 93 points. So it's, if you can just keep yourself in position to be somewhere around 10, 11, or 12, that would be ideal. Is it crazy to anybody else how we were talking all the way back at that point of the season that this is just going to be a hard mountain to try to dig out? Because you had all of these milestones, like all the teams or most of the teams that are in playoff position by Thanksgiving make it. And they weren't in a postseason position there. Weren't in a postseason position by 2021. They just have not gotten themselves into that position at any point this season. And if you get it's the 5-14 start, and then the other killer stretch was that stretch in January in which they were 1-7-1. That those were just killer this season. If you do even a little bit better, you're in at this point. If you go even 8-11 to start the year, you're in. If you, instead of going 1-7-1, if you go 4-4-1, you're in. Even having not consistently beaten any of the teams in front of you, you could still find a way to get in. But it just wasn't meant to be. There's going to be plenty of time in the offseason to point to all the different instances that just were signals that this was just not it this year. Those two stretches, all the injuries, trying to run it back with, as Denny notes, the same guys that got thrown at the back of the bench. All those things. Yeah, and this is the other part of it too. Sean is dead right here. You had the season in which you just had so many guys just go out of their minds from a scoring perspective. And so there was always going to be, and we saw a little bit of it last year, going to be regression offensively. And then last year, Philip Gustafsson, one of the 2 or 3 best goalies in the league. And there was regression there too. The fact that so much of what has happened since 2021, 2022 has been based off of trying to replicate it is a little nauseating too. We got to lock all these guys in because they did this once, which means they can do it again. It's Billy, my guy, it's okay to admit that these guys played above where they're capable. You don't have to try to lock everything in to repeat what is not likely sustainable. Being in doesn't mean much. Gets you 2 to 3 home playoff games and a lower pick. We're not good enough to beat the top tier. Have not been good enough to beat the top tier at all this season. But that's your goal as a franchise, is to get to the playoffs, to get those 2 or 3 extra games. That's the goal for this team. And if until that bar is raised, then we get to the postseason and you don't get any further. And then you have these couple of seasons where you just have tried to retain everything that got you to the playoffs, but no further. And then you stall out. Because if you have any level of injury, you don't have the guys that can replace what you have in the lineup. That's the problem. Goal is too low, and they pursue a level of quality that isn't going to keep top talent long term. Like we can just bump it up a little bit. That's all we have to do. March last year, the Wild scored 3 goals in regulation and went 7-4-2, I believe. I remember that stretch, and it was like I think I can even pull that up and just run through what happened at that point in the season, because that was cheeks, as the kids say. Even though they were winning games, like it still was just like, oh, come on. All right, March. Oh, I misread this even. Scored 3 goals in regulation once and went 3-4-2. Yeah, listen to these games. 2-1, 3-0. Lost a 1-0 shootout. 1-4-2, 1-5-2. Lost 5-4 in OT. 8-5, 5-2, 5-3, 2-1 in OT, 5-4 in a shootout. Like, this was at the end of the season when Gustafsson was at the height of his power. There's just got to be, I think, an organizational discussion. Where are we going? What are we chasing? I remember the stretch you were talking about, Sean. It was like, was it around the Seattle game? I remember the stretch you're talking about, though. It may not have been those games, but I 100% remember that stretch where they could not buy a goal. So there was a stretch in February where it was like 3-2 shootout win, 2-1 shootout loss, 3-2 loss in regulation, 2-1 shootout win over Dallas, 4-3 win over Nashville, 2-1 win. That's the stretch. That's the stretch you're talking about, Sean. It started February 11th against New Jersey. And it goes from February 11th to oh my God, March 4th. Like 3-2 shootout win, 2-1 shootout loss, 3-2 regulation loss, 2-1 shootout win, 4-3, 2-1, 2-0, 2-1 loss in OT, 3-2 win in OT, 2-1 shootout win, 2-1, 3-0. That's the stretch. We found it. February 11th of last year to March 4th of last year. I was trying to see if there are any more fun quotes from the game today. The youth should be the big takeaway from today's game. 100%. Jesper was great. And Rossi scored. Faber had that gross setup pass to Kaprizov for one of his 2 goals. It was just a fun kind of a peek down the line as to what we will be getting to see more often with Jesper between the pipes. Like, I'm hoping that he gets at least the San Jose game. I did find it interesting that John Hines seemed kind of caught off guard by that question in the post game. So hopefully he's thinking ahead to maybe getting, you know what would be great? Hear me out on this. You know what would be great is you give Jesper the San Jose game. Give him one at home too. Give him the Seattle game. Give him the Seattle game on Thursday. Give him that final home game in addition to the San Jose game. You get him 3 games to end the season, and you still get Gus, you still get Fleury in there. You can give Fleury the game against Los Angeles, but give Jesper 3 down the stretch. Give him an opportunity in front of the home fans. In addition to probably that San Jose game too. I think that would be a great goal to strive for down the stretch. In addition to getting Murat Huznadinov some help. I thought Beckman and him had some chemistry on that third line. Try somebody else in that department. Somebody else on that side. And we saw a little bit of that from John Hines tonight. He went back to Boldy, Kaprizov, and Rossi at one point. So he's doing a little tweaking during the game. But final 5 games of the season, because what happens? Vegas plays I think Vancouver tomorrow night. So let's so that should be the official end of the line. If Vegas beats Vancouver, or even if they get 1 point out of the 2, that should be the official mathematical elimination. And then at that point, it should be all about evaluation. This is like when corporate comes into your job and wants to see how everything is done. They're just taking notes. They're just observing. They just want to see how everything is done because they've got some thoughts going forward. It's not a performance review. It's just an observation because the performance reviews have already happened. What is it you say you do here? All right, let's talk about this. I want to talk to Samson because I have been going to war on the Matt Boldy front all weekend. It is possible. It's probably not likely, but it is possible that Boldy hits 30 by the end of the year. Look, Matt Boldy has areas to his game that he needs to work on. That's a factual statement. That is 100% something that is true in the universe. He has some areas to his game that he can work on. If he is able to improve his finishing by a couple of percentage points, he's probably more like a 40-goal guy this year. But there are people that are just so done with him after 2 full seasons in the NHL. That's the thing that I struggle with, is the people that are just ready to write him off after a 31-goal season last year and 26 goals this year. And yes, that stretch to start the year was not great. He had 1 goal in the first 19 games of the season. But whatever it is, whatever happens, if it was John Hines kind of lighting a fire under him, if it was Boldy finally getting away from Marcus Johansson, look at what he's done since. He has 25 goals since John Hines took over. It's okay to want more from a guy like that. That's not a problem. But there just are so many people who are like, we got to trade him. He's never going to amount to anything. Like, he's 23 years old, is making $7 million a year, and is a perennial 30-goal guy. If he would, at this point, if we had the assumption of this is as good as Matt Boldy's going to get, that's a problem. But I don't get that sense. I feel like Matt Boldy has more to give. A lot of others that cover this team feel like he has more to give. A lot of people that watch this team feel like he has more to give. And so the next step for Matt Boldy is to build off of what he has done over the last 2 seasons. And that's on him. That's on Matt Boldy to do all of that. But to just completely write a guy off because it looks like because it doesn't look like he's going 100% all the time. Go send that energy at Marcus Johansson. I'm going to be fighting this until my dying breath. I'm going to be fighting the trade Matt Boldy discussion for the rest of my time doing any level of podcasting. You can want more from him. I do. That's perfectly acceptable because I feel like he has more to give, but he'll get there. That's part of the growing process. That's part of the development process as a young player. And so he'll get there, and I'm just gonna I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it at that. But he'll get there. That's part of the development process for a guy like Matt Boldy. Denny's right on. Boldy's a youngster. He's still learning. If he got to the 40-goal range and was being paid $7 million a year, that's a steal. It's an outrageous steal. Analytically, he is already meeting the level of his current contract. He's meeting it right now. So he's giving you $7 million of value right now. If he exceeds that, that's where it becomes just a bargain for the next 5 or 6 seasons. That's when you start to get that's when we start to get to how we feel about Joel Eriksson Ek right now. So that's my piece. That's all I'll say on the Matt Boldy front. Kakinen just gave up a goal after getting hit in the bag, it looks like. We can't have that. That's, especially with a hockey puck, that's just miserable. We can't be doing that. All right, so next up, the Wild play Colorado. The Avs are really good. The Wilds, not so much. A fun fact for the day, it was brought to my attention that a particular Minnesota Wild former forward is starting to get some elevated minutes. Keep this in mind too. It took Joel Eriksson Ek 4 seasons to get himself figured out. It just takes guys. It takes guys a while to get here, number one. And then it takes them a little while to figure out how to stand out. Kaprizov had it from the moment he got here, but let's also keep in mind he played in the KHL for a long time. So he had a lot of things figured out by the time he got here. Matt Boldy got hurt. Otherwise, that season, his rookie season, if Matt Boldy doesn't get hurt in training camp, I think he wins the Calder that year. He's been that good since. When was the last time we won a game versus the Jets, Avs, or Stars? Last year. Last year would be my guess. I will take a peek. And, again, Dougie's right, too. There needs to be patience for these guys. Marco Rossi, 19 games last year, 1 point. Now this year, he's in the midst of being one of the standouts for the Calder Trophy. You just have to give guys an opportunity to figure it out. Some of them don't, but when they do, they do. Yeah, I think Sean is right. Steamroller 17. It would have had to have been just what game was it? It was game 5, I think. Yeah, April 21st against Dallas, the game 3, the 5-1 win. Oh, that game was so much fun. That game was so much fun at the X. The crowd was insane. Was it Mason Shaw that did Let's Play Hockey there? It was electric. People were heckling Ryan Suter so much, and they ran the Stars out of the building. But then 3 straight. 3-2, 4-0, 4-1. And I'll never forget it. Like, Dean going line blender with 2 minutes to play in game 6. Like, they just, the team just collectively did not have any answer for anything after 2-1. So yeah, that was the last time. The Wild are winless against Winnipeg, Dallas, and Colorado this season. They're 0-8-1 in 9 games. Not ideal. But at some point, those wins will come back, because not everybody sustains their cup run for long. Eventually, you kind of sink back down. All right, folks, it has been a marathon of a day. Unless anybody has any quick questions here to finish, I think I'm going to wrap this one up. If you do have questions you'd like answered in an episode, we've got a spot in the Discord server to host those questions in the mailbag questions section. Also, you can just email lockedonwild@gmail.com. If you have a question you'd like answered for an episode, feel free to shoot me an email, and we'll add it to our list for future episode, whether it be coming up or in the off season. We have an episode bank ready to go for topics. So feel free to reach out if you've got something. Thanks for tuning in all day to our live show on Sunday at noon, and to today's watch party, and also to tonight's Locked On Wild postcast. We have you covered all the time, every day, whether it be episodes, whether it be live streams, whether it be postcasts. We've got you covered. So make sure to drop us a like here for today's episode, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. We've got new episodes for you every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.